whether, for me, and again, listen, there'll be coaches out there that don't agree with me, and they have their own views on things. But for me, um, the most important part of a fight camp is the weight cutting and rehydration process. And what you've got in every gym around the UK and globally, you've got these elite athletes who are hitting pads, wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. They're training all these different disciplines for these little 0.5% advantage over their opponent. Yet, in a lot of cases, if they don't understand what they're putting in their body, if they don't understand how to time that food, that supplementation, if they don't know how to cut weight properly, if they don't know how to rehydrate to the max, that could have a negative 20, 30, 40, 50% on the performance anyway. So everything else they've done in the gym is kind of out the window. Now, again, like I say, there's people who will agree and disagree with me. However, one of the key factors to, as a management company, what we wanted to do is give the athlete that opportunity to tap into absolute expert knowledge, that we've tried to do on different levels. So two guys I mentioned before, Jamie Carruthers and Matt Roberts, they are part of HD Fight Management. They have been for a number of years now, We give our athletes the opportunity to tap into their knowledge as sports scientists and nutritionists, to get the very best information they can. Now, listen, we never try and force this on anybody, but if any of our athletes want to tap into that, we can distance manage that process for fight week, or we for a fight camp, and that expert advice and knowledge is free to every one of our athletes. Like I say, look, whether that athlete decides to tap into that is up to them, because they might have their own setup, they might have their own coaches, and they might be happy with what they're doing, But I think to offer that as support, and listen, we've got Scott Askham tapped into it, Mark Darkasey taps into it, we've got elite athletes that do it, but as a professional athlete, if you want to perform at your optimal, to me, this is absolutely critical that you understand what you're doing and what you're taking and what you should be taking and what time you should be taking. Now, take it up a level, and Paul Reed is on our board of directors at HD Fight Management. Paul has his own brand called Vortex. Paul also is, I believe, an owner now at Athlete Factory in Cheshire, which is a phenomenal facility. Paul is as good as anybody I've ever met in this arena. Very passionate, very knowledgeable. What you kind of find in a lot of people is you have an academic who's good at, who's an absolute genius, but you also have what I call a layman who will explain it to me. I grew up on a council estate in Doncaster. I'm not an academic. I can speak to some people and it's straight over my head. But there's people like Paul who will explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old child, and then I get it. And so to have somebody like Paul Reed on board and working with some of our athletes, it's phenomenal, because again, that knowledge and that expertise, to me, you can't put a price on that.
No.
And look, he works with guys like Paddy Pimlett, he works with guys like, HD guys like Gav Hughes, he works with Molly, and he's just a consummate professional in how he approaches that. Now, look, to work with Paul, there's a cost for that. But again, this is where, as a professional athlete, if you're serious about wanting to be the very, very best at what you do, you've also got to be prepared to invest in that journey. Right now, again, the reason we offer it free with Matt and Jamie is because these athletes that are not at that level, who can't afford that, so we offer that through Matt and Jamie and distance manage that. We also offer it through Paul, through Vortex, which is a lot more intense. It's face to face. It's there's a lot more structure to it, but there's a premium. In my experience, nobody works for nothing in this game, and if they do, they don't do it for very long. So again, invest in your journey. Now, switch that over to Europe. We managed Alexander Rakic, who for me is the consummate professional, is in his approach to fighting. Now his performance coach, a guy called Richard Stoner. Richard is a very, very good friend. Yeah, and again, he's an absolute genius in what he does. Yeah, every time Alexander Rakic fights, he's waking up on weight. Yeah, he ain't jumping in saunas, he ain't killing his sen, the night before the weigh-ins. Yeah, and when you look at the professionalism around that, when you look at, and again, we talk about in camp and out of camp, Alexander Rakic is timed with everything he does through Richard Stordner. Now, again, Richie, we've worked with Rich for a number of years. Richie, Paul Reed, Jamie Carruthers, Matt Roberts, in my humble opinion, are as good as it gets for sports nutrition, sports science in this space. Yeah, and they're all part of what we do. Yeah. Richie is also putting educational information together and content together for us to share with Africa and the coaches in Africa. And, again, it's something that he's very passionate about because, again, everything on this journey is an education in this particular arena. And like I say, for you to be the very best at what you do, if you're not tapping into this, if you're not understanding this, for me, there's a huge hole in your game.
So we were talking about sports science and how, you want to be giving all this information to, coaches in Africa and all that sort of stuff. When you're doing all the research for the science and diet, how much how much consideration is taken in for different cultures? Obviously, different cultures have different diets. So is this something that's thought of when you're going through the process?
Look, a prime example of that is Shaib Youssef. And again, working with Paul Reed, well, with the Asian community once a year, you've got Ramadan. And again, it was, how does that affect the training? Yeah, how does that affect the fasting? And how do we work around that? So I think having that expertise and knowledge and to be able to kind of work around that, well, that actually opens up an whole new, potential arena or potential opportunity. So it was something that it were actually earlier this year that Paul reached out. He said, look, he rang me. He says, Carl, he said, I've done a plan for Shaib around Ramadan, and and like I say, Shaib were over the moon. He had the energy. He wasn't flat. And it just worked really well. So again, there's just kind of different challenges that require different fixes. But I think again, if you have not got that knowledge and expertise, you're gonna be left wanting. And again, if an athlete's thinking, well, Ramadan's coming and I'm gonna have to have a month off, and then they've then got to do an 8-week camp, they're actually missing a quarter of the year. And I know I know previously talking to matchmakers, that's also been not a frustration. It's probably the wrong term, but it's been an obstacle that they've had to deal with, where certain athletes who follow a certain religion, will be out of action for that period of time. So again, like I say, that's a prime example. And then it kind of goes on. It's like we started working with Tom Blackledge recently. Again, I take it as a backhand compliment that he asked if we'd look after one of his fighters, I called James Lewis, who debuts in Octagon on the 17th of this month. And I watched what Tom does away from the sport in relation to mental health, and which is an whole new arena as well. Which I think's more than ever nowadays is coming to the forefront in relation to men and guys and men being comfortable enough to talk about, what genuinely is I believe an epidemic.
100% an epidemic. There's a scary amount of people, especially men, who deal with mental health and keep it closed and don't open up. And especially I can imagine with fighters as well, the amount of pressure, in terms of financial, the pressure. Am I going to make it? This is all I've got for my family. And then even the pressure at the top, and you've got so much pressure to keep going on that streak, or to keep the image that you've got. You're just a normal guy that wants to fight, and all of a sudden you're a superstar, and everyone's asking. There's so many factors. So
and again, like I say, I think when you when you're working with, when you get to know like the Tom Blackledgers, who again are legendary in UK MMA, and you get to know these guys and these athletes better. It's when you're finding out these things that it does give you a slightly different perspective. Look, everybody knows that they get in a cage and they can have a do, yeah, and 99.9% of the time they look bulletproof. When you kind of get to know them and you see the weaknesses isn't the right term whatsoever, but you see the what's the term I'm looking for? You see
vulnerabilities, maybe.
You see certain vulnerabilities, and again, that's where the connection, and that's where you think, wow, but look, I think you go into an old different conversation.
That's a whole different topic for sure.
But so look, coming back to Neuroptimax and how we kind of got to this. Jamie Carruthers, who I've mentioned before, who's part of HD Fight Management. I'd gone to meet one of my athletes who were fighting on Bama in Blackpool, and I'd not seen him. He'd been away for a camp, and I went to met up with him. And anyway, cut long story short, he looked shit. Right, I genuinely felt I could have pushed him over with one finger, and that kind of triggered something for me to say, look, Carl, you need to understand a little bit more about weight cutting and rehydration and so on and so forth. And so I reached out to a friend of mine. I said, look, can you put me in touch with anybody? Because I was seeing people missing weight on the UFC, people being carried off. I think it was Joanna Jacek carried off the scales at one event. And I thought, fucking hell, if these guys aren't getting it right at that level, what chance have we got? So a friend of mine called David Hudson, he put me in touch with Jamie Carruthers, and he said, look, I'll just reach out. So I reached out to Jamie, and like I say, he's a lecturer at Wakefield University. He's worked in the US at Stocksdale, Arizona. He'd headed up a military facility for the Qatari Armed Forces in the Middle East, and I literally went to see him, and it was kind of a light bulb moment for me as an individual. And literally after talking to him for 2 minutes, I thought, fucking hell, I need to work with this guy. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It would just wow. You just know when you speak to people and you think your shit. So anyway, from that day, he came on board. He introduced me to Matt Roberts, who again the lecturer at Wakefield Uni, and Matt came on board, and we've been together ever since I think it's about 2017, 2018 maybe, yeah. And again, from that meeting, we kind of went off on two different pathways. One was supplementation, and one was diagnostics, blood testing. And so through Jamie working in the Middle East and understanding the Middle Eastern diet as opposed to the Western diet, and blood testing thousands and thousands of male, female, black, white, Asian, and having that level of expertise, and then understanding the way you find out about somebody physically,
blood tests,
is blood testing, because if you're blood testing, you can blood test for so many different biomarkers, and whether that's through capillary or through venous sample, but if somebody, before somebody starts dieting and exercising, surely they should know where they are from their own blood biomarkers. Now, straight away, if you're an athlete and we test your blood and you're deficient in testosterone, cortisol, DHEA, and or whatever we test you for, how are you gonna perform at your best? Bear in mind the stress you put in your body under anyway. How are you gonna perform at your best unless we correct those deficiencies? So one of the things we looked at, Jamie said, look, why don't we start testing a couple of your athletes? He said, I've got all this data from all these tests I've done previously. He said, but it'd be an interesting case study. So we got a couple of guys and a couple of girls in. We looked at, we tested them. It was absolutely mind blowing where these elite athletes, professional athletes, where they were deficient. But it then goes, well, Jamie, how do we correct these deficiencies? Well, we can do it through food, exercise, supplementation, and sleep. Yeah. Food, what foods to introduce in your diet, what foods to take out your diet, exercise, obviously they're exercising anyway, but how do we leave that loose but give guidance on it? Supplementation, you go into an Asda or a Tesco or a supermarket and you can pretty much wipe 90% of the shit off the shelf because, a lot of what you buy from there will have zero effect on you as an individual because it's not the right dosage. So through the corrective action, through supplementation is how do we recommend the right supplement for you at the right dosage that's going to have the right effect on correcting your deficiencies, and obviously sleep as well. Sleep's massively important in relation to recovery and so on and so forth. So we kind of started testing and we started looking at this, and and Jamie, like I say, got these reams and reams of data from what he'd done previously, and over the last 4 years, we got to a point where we said, look, at what point are we going to be ready to press that button? To say, right, we now want to offer our athletes the opportunity to really get under the skin, if let's excuse the pun, of their performance, but at the same time, Jamie also says to me, he says, Carl, he goes, I've got a formulation here that I'd like to bring to market, a supplement formulation that every ingredient within that formulation can be traced back to what's called PubMed. PubMed it's a database of papers that are written by professors, academics, where they, years and years of study on these individual ingredients. Said, but look, I believe that if I put all these ingredients together, I can prove that this formulation will have a positive effect on the pre and post effects of concussion in combat sport. Now, straight away, that got my attention. He said, but look, he said, we need to do some research go away and do some research on concussion and tell me what you think. So I then left, I got on Google and I thought, fucking hell, it's like an epidemic, American football, soccer as they call it over there, football as we call it over here, rugby, rugby league, rugby union, horse racing, combat sports.
Do you think it's surprising how long it's taken for companies to really invest in neurological supplements?
Well, yeah, I do. But then if you look at back then, 5 years ago, it was like the elephant in the room. You now look now, you fast forward and you've got rugby, you've got concussion protocols,
For even football.
Football, there's now such a huge thing on heading the ball. You look at America where as at certain ages, you're not allowed to head the ball, and then you're only allowed to head the ball for so long in a week and things like that. And it gets really, really, when you start drilling down. But then the flip side of that is in combat sport, it's not just when these guys get in the cage at an event or in a boxing ring. It's the hard sparring running up to that fight, the 8, 10, 12 weeks hard sparring that they're getting in the gym. And so I said to Jess, fucking hell, this is phenomenal. And, when you've got that level of expertise in your corner, I thought, this is
a game changer.
Yeah, I thought this is it. I'd got my yacht catalogue out. I was going to have a look what yacht I was buying and that. And so we said, look, let's have a look at this. So we did the research. Yeah, we realised there was a massive opportunity. Yeah, we then had a problem with manufacturing. Now, when we looked at the supplement market in general, proteins, pre-workouts, Vit D tablets, and the rest of it, it were an absolutely saturated market. And the companies that survive were the companies that have the money, have a great branding. It's a formulation that's off the shelf. So you might have 5 different companies, that have exactly the same product inside, but it's the one who's got the most money and the best marketing machine that'll be the most successful. What we wanted to do, we wanted to bring bespoke formulations out that had the efficacy behind them, because guess what? Jamie was signing his name to these. So all his years of dedicating his life to this pursuit, were going to be in that tub. So he weren't prepared to sign off on it unless the ingredients were the absolute best ingredients we could get hold of. It were to a particular standard. And then straight away, we visited loads of different manufacturers that weren't interested. yeah, because they were already producing all this, all these products for all these other companies that were just off the shelf, yeah. And so the first challenge was, how do we get it? How do we get it formulated? Yeah. We then managed to get that. We overcome that. We overcome that issue. Yeah. We then decided to bring it to market as Concussion Pro 1. Now, straight away, emotive subject, concussion. Everybody shit themselves. Yeah. So from that, straight away, the Advertising Standards Agency came on to us and say, well, hang on a minute, you can't make that claim, that claim, that claim, that claim. Yeah, and we said, well, hang on a minute, we can, because the science tells us we can, because we've got PubMed and everything in there tells us that this is the positive effect that these ingredients will have on the pre and post effects of concussion. So again, we went round in circles, and eventually the ASA said, look, we're happy for you to say this and this, but you can't say that and you can't say that. But then we said, look, maybe we need to just take a step back, look at a rebrand, because as we were looking at concussion, we were also looking at the brain health market in general. Right. Now, again, I'll circle back to something we were talking about a few moments ago. Right. So when you look at the brain health market for supplementation, it's still a very uncrowded market. Right. So at the end of 2019, we did a full rebrand on it and it became Neuroptimax Pro. Yeah. It were a 10.5 gram scoop of powder. Yeah. That you put into 250 ml of water. You took it once a day and you could literally wipe every supplement out of your cupboard. Yeah, because you had it all in this one tub. Now, the problem you've got with life in general, if you've got a sore elbow or a sore knee or a sore ankle and it's hurting you, you take something because, yeah. But what you find with the brain, and what we found in our research we've done over the years, is out of sight is out of mind. Yeah. And again, yeah, you don't know what's going on in there. So because the supplement, you weren't getting that feeling, yeah, and again, I'll come back to likes of Paul Reed and the other guys who've took this product, yeah, they absolutely swear by it. It is part of their daily routine, yeah. But again, so one of the challenges that we face, well, look, rebrand, relaunch, yeah, athletes saying, well, is it really working for me? Well, yeah, of course it's working for me because we've got this science. So again, we just started overcoming kind of objections, yeah, as to the product, and then COVID hit. And we thought, what do we do here? We've put all this time, effort into this product. Gyms are shutting. Athletes don't know when they're fighting, and all the rest of the headache that came with COVID. So we said, look, what do we do? What do we do here? Do we just sit on it and ride it out? But nobody knew how long this, we were going to be locked down, or, how long gyms were going to be shut. So Jamie said, look, he said, what I'd like to do is use the time wisely, and let's look at maybe bringing a ready to drink out. So everything that's in Neuroptimax Pro, yeah, let's put into Neuroptimax Sport, which
one of these bad boys.
Yeah. And again, we then went on what can only be described as a bit of a journey, because when you're putting things into a liquid, things maybe don't stabilize as well, and so on and so forth. So one of the biggest issues we had was an ingredient called creatine monohydrate, which is probably the most peer-reviewed ingredient globally in and the benefits for it as a supplement are second to none. But we couldn't get it to stabilize in a liquid. So again, what Jamie decided to do was replace creatine monohydrate with an ingredient called citicoline, which again is a very, very peer-reviewed ingredient to do with brain health, and it's also a very, very expensive ingredient as well. So again, we spent the next 12, 15 months developing Neuroptimax Sport. Now, again, it was absolutely clear that we wanted it to be to the standard that we'd done with Pro. Yeah. Again, nothing else like it on the market. But what we also decided to do was put 200 milligrams of caffeine in there, so people felt that,
that buzz.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but how would you describe Neuroptimax Sport if you're comparing it to something like Lucozade Sport, or a Monster Energy drink? What would be the difference?
Absolutely night and day between them. In relation to what you've got in that bottle there, you've got the optimal daily dosage of everything you need as an individual in one drink, yeah? What you've also got with the caffeine, yeah, it can be what's called glucked, as a pre-workout. So you gluck half a bottle, 30 minutes before you train, you get that lift, you get that buzz. Yeah, right. If you're feeling flat, you can sip it during the day and it'll just lift you, right? But what it's not got no sugars, it's not got no fillers, it's not got no shit. So you get all the benefits of the energy drink in relation to the feeling without all the garbage that you put in your body by drinking a Red Bull or a Monster or whatever. Yeah. So that again, when you look at Pro, the key ingredient, key difference is creatine monohydrate choline. Yeah. Right. Also reverting back to Pro. Yeah. We're now going to be developing it with with or without caffeine. So again, if you're training in the morning, you want to take Pro, again, Scoop, that also operates as a pre-workout. If you're training on a night, and you just want to make sure that you're getting that, those electrolytes, those vitamins and everything else in there, you take the non-caffeinated on an evening. Going forward, so look, we believe we've got two absolutely world-leading products there that benefit you totally, both mind and body. We've got lots of R&D, research and development on new products that we want to bring to market. But again, for our athletes, what we want to be able to do is give them these products. Because there's legitimate benefits to taking them.
Do you feel as though this could change the game for athletes?
I think to be honest with you, if you're going to be successful in this market, it's how big's your marketing budget, and again, so what we want to do, we've had to grow it organically, which is not great. We've on Neuroptimax Pro, we've had the likes of Cameron Usman, Gilbert Burns, Luke Rockhold,
Sanford team kind of thing.
Emery Hoof, we've had the guys, on the product, and the feedback's been phenomenal. Look, this is a long termer for us. We want to bring the key for us is bringing products out that are Informed Sport accredited, so athletes can take them without fear of popping a doping test. We want to bring products out with the efficacy that are second to none, which we've done. And we want to continue to build in, like I say, into a market where we believe there's a huge opportunity. We don't just want to be another protein company or another pre-workout company. We want to bring products that are really game-changing products, which is what we're doing now.